And I think we are live now. Yes, we are. Good afternoon, everybody. You are very, very welcome to the first official broadcast of 2021. And even though there's a lot of things going on, everybody is online. And there are interviews online, and we are a case in point here. So I have an expert with me who's going to talk us through interviews online, whether it's job or whether it's doing something like I'm doing here. Maureen McCann from Soft Skills Success. Maureen, thank you for coming here today and chatting with us. Online interviews. I mean, actually, before we get into that, how did you get into doing what you do now? Because you've quite a back history.
Back history. Well, Barbara, first of all, thanks for inviting me along today. Delighted to be here. And back history is that my background is secondary teaching. I was a secondary school teacher for most of my career. And this time, 3 years ago, I decided that I was going to apply for a career break. So the following September, I took a career break. And it wasn't that I didn't enjoy teaching. I love teaching, but I just wanted to try something different. And part of it was, could I do something different? Would I be capable of doing something different? So I didn't step too far away from the teaching roots. It was do the train the trainer course, and communication and presentation skills come more naturally to me. I've been a member of Toastmasters for 10 years. So it was a natural fit. And I'm now teaching adults to communicate. So it's not too far away. It's not that big a pivot.
No, it's not. So you're still in the teaching role.
Still in the teaching role.
Still in the teaching role. So online interviews now, I mean, over the last 12 months, you could really say, we're not that far off 12 months of this now. Interviews for lots of things have moved online. And I'm using the word interview, and for some of it, in inverted commas, because conversations happening online. But they are so different, because when somebody walks into a room, you create a presence. Mm-hmm. That's gone. How do you make account or take account of that when you're about to go online?
Yeah, you have to prepare differently. I think that's a big part, and there is a certain amount. I'm looking here down at the corner of my screen, and it says in the blue box, "You're in the show," and that's really what it is. When you're online for an interview situation, it is a show, and you have to bring that extra bit of yourself. There's that extra little bit of energy that you're going to need for starters, because you're not picking up on energy and vibes within the room. And we were talking earlier, you don't have the time quite often for that social chit chat, talking about the weather, talking about what,
the traffic
was like on the way there. All of those things. So unless that's created by the person who is doing the interview, my advice to them is put the interviewee at ease by taking that minute or 2 minutes for having the social chit chat. But if you're the person who is being interviewed and you don't have that control, then it means that you need to come in full force, full energy into the room so that you're noticed and you're remembered. And I would take it as being, again, from the show point of view, think of it as the lights, camera, action when we're going through our tips for today. And so if we're taking a look at that action side of it now, you need to come in and have that energy that's there. And I would expect you found the same, Barbara. You need to bring that extra energy when you're doing it online, because if you don't have that, then it just comes across really flat.
Absolutely. And, it can be exhausting, because that actually takes a lot more energy from you, even as the interviewee. Because one, you're all psyched up because somebody's going to be asking you a set of questions, and are you good at this? Are you good at that? And you kind of get those blank moments. So you're trying to keep yourself motivated and interested and whatever. And one thing is, and it's something that I've said before, they could be sitting in their pajama bottoms on the bottom and look brilliant from the top up. So kind of try and keep that feeling of being fully there and fully present.
Yes.
And the other thing is, because they're on camera as well, you don't have the verbal cues. Now, I'm a diva, I mean, I'm with hands. Yeah, that's how I talk. But for somebody who would not be demonstrative like I am, it can just look like this.
It can. Yeah.
And that makes it so difficult.
Yeah. And that's why you need to bring that extra, that 10% extra version of yourself when you're coming along. And if you're normally, quiet and, sit back type of person, that can be very difficult. But it's just wherever your starting point is, try to give it that extra oomph of that 10%, whatever it's going to be beforehand. And, have a think about where do you want to sit or do you want to stand? We all assume that we're going to be sitting down now because we're in front of a laptop, but we don't have to. And you might find that you've got better energy if you're standing. So then stand, have your laptop raised up so that you've still got the camera at eye level. I know a lot of ironing boards were repurposed, definitely at the beginning of lockdown, and maybe, books underneath the laptop to raise it up. But if standing gives you more energy, then stand. Be aware of where you're standing.
Absolutely.
Similarly, from the sitting, if I sit back in my chair now, I've totally changed that energy. Whereas if I'm sitting forward, the edge of my chair, without being right in the camera, I'm putting myself under that little bit of stress. The energy is different. So you're bringing that to the interview. There are little things that you can do beforehand, and pump yourself up. If it's listening to your favorite power tunes beforehand, something that's going to really have you ready to go and ready to start the interview.
And it's funny as you say that about sitting, because automatically like that, as I'm chatting to anybody like yourself today, I'm here, you'll probably tell I'm at the edge of my chair. The elbows are on the table. It was just as you were saying that, I was thinking, keep myself forward, because you do. If I sat back now and I was chatting to you, everybody would say, sure, she hasn't an ounce of interest at all. And as you say though, like, it's hard for me because I'm interviewing you live online. I'm here thinking, my head is about that size over there on the screen. I don't want to be taking over the whole thing, But that, and I think that probably when you sit forward like that actually helps the rapport side of it.
Mm-hmm. It does, that, and it's putting yourself, you're consciously making an effort to engage as well. And one of the things you have mentioned there, that you could be sitting in the pajama bottoms and so on. Yes, you could, but I would definitely psychologically, and I know you're in this mode as well, you wear your shoes every day, but it changes your whole approach if you have, you're dressed properly from head to toe, putting on the shoes, putting on the perfume if that's what's going to help you put on, getting yourself the same as if you're meeting somebody in person, that it's mentally preparing yourself for what's coming rather than, going around in the tracksuit bottom or the pair of slippers or whatever.
Definitely. And I've said it here before, and we discussed perfume and all those little things that actually help you stay psychologically in that place where you need to be for that moment. There's something you said there previously as well about standing. Now, I have done it a few times when and if you saw what my computer was stacked on to just get the height.
to get it right. A word of warning for the standing though, because if it's a case that you're nervous and you're shuffling and you're moving back and forth like that, that's very distracting. So you have to think of all of these things. Similarly, if I have a pen in my hand and I don't know if you can hear the clicking there.
Do you know what? Yeah.
So, make sure that you don't have anything like that you're not tapping the desk. A tip that I would give to people if it's in a face-to-face interview situation is just, like what you do with your hands, have the hands clasped.
I do automatically,
dig the thumb into the back of the hand there, into the palm of the hand, and let that release your stress that way, rather than tapping on the table or tapping your foot or moving around or anything that's squeaky chairs as well. It's another one to watch. If it's the office chairs that are on wheels, and sometimes there can be squeak when you're moving. All of those things can be picked up on the audio and be very distracting for people.
Yeah. And something else, because as you start talking chairs and things like that, and we move into tech. Now, you and I were having a conversation before we came on air about a particular platform, and not the one we're using, by the way. But and see, there's a comment actually just before we move on. Emma is watching here, and she says she uses a tennis ball in her hand. and anything, which is really good, because anything that can divert the anxiety and divert the energy is good. But back onto the tech. So we were chatting about a particular platform, and one thing that I noticed, now I have been using Zoom and other online platforms for years, but there was one platform I happened to be using with somebody, and it was they were helping me out with a tech problem. And they said, sure, are you free for a call now? And of course I said, yeah, no bother. I was delighted. I was getting support there and then immediately, but I hadn't a clue how to use the platform that I was on. And even though they were helping me, I felt so silly. Where's the mute? Where's the mic? Where's the share screen? Where's this? So familiarity with the platform that the interviewer is going to use.
Yeah, very much so. And if it's a case that it is a Zoom call, then set up a Zoom call yourself, test it in advance. If you're going to be sharing slides as part of your interview, then go in and see, how do I share them? How do I come out of them? If you're coming out of the slides and going back into them again, how does that work? Similarly, if it's, for Teams or any other one, if they send you the schedule and there's an interview coming up and it's a platform that you're not familiar with, then don't risk it. Contact them and say, I haven't used this platform before. I want to be confident sharing my slides. Can we have a trial run? Can I have 5 minutes of your time for a trial run? I was using a platform for delivering a presentation, and that's exactly what I did. The day beforehand, I went on to make sure that I knew exactly where to go so I could share my screen. And when I shared the slides on this particular platform, I actually couldn't see them myself. And I was like, I've no idea what people are going to be seeing, but there was a way to do it. I just didn't know how, and I needed to be told. So it is far better. And I think it would show an employer that you are serious about this interview, that you want to create a good impression if you're asking for 5 minutes of their time. And 5 minutes very often is all that you need. Have a trial run through, just so that and it eases your stress on the day as well. You've enough going on. You don't need to be worrying about a platform that you haven't used before. So minimize that stress, because, and you've seen this, Barbara, things go wrong with tech. It goes wrong all the time, and there's certain things that are outside our control, but having a trial run beforehand, that is within your control. So control the controllables.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree. And the other thing with that is as well, is because you're not present in the room with someone, as we said, and the chit chat is gone, and that, loose conversation, so to speak, everything is timed even tighter.
Yeah.
So where you would have been going for or interviewing somebody, whether it's for a report or whether it's job or anything like that, you'd be sitting comfortably and chatting, and time kind of goes by and nobody's thinking about it as such. But once you're online and somebody has a line of interviews, or, a few interviews lined up, it's, well, that's the 20 minutes. That's the 20 minutes. So you kind of have to make sure you don't get caught out on any of those tech things.
Exactly. Yeah. And, if you're doing tech and it goes wrong, and then you start panicking and it impacts the rest of your interview. So, always be prepared for something like that. Worst case scenario, have also planned what happens if the tech totally goes wrong. I can't share my screen. Then talk through, so that you're not depending on seeing what's on those slides, that you're able to still talk through and say, look, there's an issue with tech and I will email the slides immediately after this, so that you've got your backup plan, and that you can walk out of there feeling, yes, I've done the best that I can given the situation, because people will understand if there's different glitches and tech glitches that are outside of your control. But to have it all prepared, it's all part of the preparation beforehand. Think about what you would do.
And there's a responsibility on those who are doing the interviewing as well, and particularly at the time and at the moment, because, of course, as we know at the moment, there's homeschooling. I'm here, fingers crossed that my dog doesn't start, as he has done before. The dog starts barking, and we've seen it on the news even, where children have walked in and they say kind of, hi, daddy, so the interviewer has to also make allowances for who they are speaking with.
Yes, exactly. And, I think that's probably, there's been a lot more flexibility in that recently, and it's getting that balance between being professional and being realistic with regard to what people are working with at home as well. But if there is a case that there is the dog that might start barking or the child is going to come in, you try to set up in as far as possible, as much as you can beforehand, to eliminate the chance of that happening. But then you also have your phrase ready, your sentence ready, so that if it does happen, that you're not going to go into panic mode, that you're relaxed and calm. This is life, this is real life, and particularly nowadays. So you're relaxed and calm. How do you handle it? And keep going and not let it distract you. And again, that's part of your preparation beforehand. What will I say if?
Yeah. I was chatting with somebody one evening and we were talking, it was a business call and we were talking. Next on, she was probably out there watching, and next of all, the cat walked across the desk and you see the tail of the cat. But that's actually just what happens when you're online and you're having a conversation. And even the room that you're in when you're having the conversation. We were chatting about this as well beforehand.
Yes, yeah, because people are, it's not ideal setups for people. We're not all blessed to have a spare room that could be used as an office. My husband is in the office room next door, so I'm in my son's bedroom, and you do what you can, and you make sure that, your background is as clean and as clear as possible, and that is professional looking. And I know for my own son he's in final year in college, and he had an interview as part of his project before Christmas. And he was doing his trial run with me beforehand. And I said to him, okay, just take a look at what's behind you, because we don't notice.
Yeah.
So put on your camera and look at it from the point of view of the person who is watching, and see, there could be a coat hanging on the back of the chair behind you that's causing an obstruction, or there could be just something small. Very often it's just small things. Find wherever the corner is that you're going to be in for that period of time. It's like what you said there earlier, Barbara, about, standing up and people not seeing what's in the background. People can't see what's in the background. They can only see what you're allowing them to see through your camera. So, make sure that is as clear and as clean and as professional looking as possible as well.
Yeah, there's loads of things that we could dip into on, particularly around cameras and tech and sound, make headphones and all these kind of things, and presenting. But you actually have, you work a lot with corporate and with businesses and with teams, and you have some courses coming up, I believe, soon as well. And actually, my bad, because I really should have had this is how you can contact Maureen at softskillsuccess.ie. I am so sorry.
No problem.
I should have had the banner up. But you have some courses coming up, Maureen.
I do. Well, next Wednesday is the Master Your Pitch Masterclass. So that is aimed very much at business owners who want a networking pitch for either networking events, but also for social media and things like that. And so that is a 3-hour workshop that's there. But I'm really excited about next month. I'm going to be launching a 6-week course next month. And that is a group program, because I've had a number of clients who've come to me looking for help in their confidence speaking publicly. And when I'm saying speaking publicly, they're not looking to speak at an event or standing on stage. Quite often it's to get their voice heard at a meeting, speaking up at a meeting, speaking to senior management, and not stumbling and feeling at the end of it, oh my God, I should have said this. That's the confidence that I'm finding a lot of people want. And while you can get some tips and techniques from working one-to-one, you really need to be getting out and practicing it. And that's what I'm creating. So it's a small group, 6-week course where we're going through, yes, presentation skills, but also those everyday situations in work environment, so that you can communicate with confidence. So watch out for the launch of that one.
Lovely. Now that's great, because one of the things I know myself from a previous career I had was that knowing how and when to interrupt, and there's a how around that, and that believe it or not, I never used to open my mouth. I was terrified. I know that might be hard to believe now, but there was a point in my life, and I'll never forget it. I can still see myself sitting there, and it is just that. And I don't mean interrupt negatively. I mean, you could have had something positive to contribute, but it's how you do that. And I would say there's a lot of maybe, local community groups and committees as well that especially when they're voluntary, that they need that help just to be able to be assertive.
It is, and make the point, get your voice heard, and not have that feeling at the end of it, at the end of that meeting, and you're going home and you're saying, oh, I should have said, or kicking yourself because you didn't say something, and it can just really spiral from that. And that's that is a basic level of public speaking, because bear in mind, every time that you're speaking outside of your home environment, it's public,
Yes.
whether if you are speaking in a group at a webinar that's there, and you're part of a group and you're speaking up in that's the same public speaking as being in the room. Now, some people find it easier, some people find it more difficult, but it's still speaking in public. And for all of us, the preparation is the big part. It's always comes back to thinking about it in advance and preparing as much as you can. Even for something more impromptu, like making a point at a meeting, there are still certain elements that you can prepare in advance.
Great. Maureen, thank you so much for coming on today. I'm delighted. There's your website. Anybody, please do get in touch with Maureen, softskillsuccess.ie. And just before I finish, also, don't forget, sign up for our newsletter. There is a post at the top of the page, pinned to the top of the page, where you can keep up to date and catch up with any interviews later on. They'll all be linked. And for the moment, thank you all. Maureen, thank you so much for coming on today. And everybody, I shall see you, please God, next week. So stay safe, stay well, and keep out of harm's way. And we'll see you all then.
Thanks a million, Barbara.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.